Welcome to Empowered Life Hacks, where we share with you an explosion of tips to help you overcome your daily struggles. Pay attention for the audio and visual cues, and this will let you know when an actionable idea is right on its way.
Everybody, welcome to Empowered Life Hacks. We're joined here with a good friend of mine named Reggie Waterman. Became pretty close to him over the few months that passed, learning about things like personal branding and storytelling. And I thought, whoa, that's a big gap I need to fill with some of the programs we run here and podcasts. And Reggie so kindly agreed to come talk to us about this. And again, there's a lot of things school teaches you that are very impactful, very powerful, very helpful. But there's some other things that are really geared towards your daily life and how you feel about yourself or how you feel about others or how you're going to navigate social relationships. And I want to serve that purpose and fill that gap. And Reggie here, Reggie Waterman, again, one of a personal branding guru, I would call him in my opinion. And he's a great storyteller. And I thought, what better person to come talk about this subject and help you create a stronger image and meet more people. So Reggie, maybe if you want to just get into a quick intro into like personal branding, how that came about in your life.
Yeah, Eric, number one, thank you for having me on the show. This is pretty cool. And I love what you've been doing with your podcast, Empowered Life Hacks. Like, think about that. Like the branding behind it is amazing. It's powerful. And you're really helping people just live life better. So kudos to you, man.
Appreciate
So in terms of like personal branding, where do I begin? It begins with you. It begins with me. That's what I discovered when, through my life journey and career journey, we all have to sell ourselves at one point, whether it be through an interview that we do, whether it be pitching to an internal stakeholder to, get them to align to a specific idea or concept. But the delivery and how we communicate is all dependent on the individual. So what do I mean by that? We start with the fingerprint. I always like to do this one. I got this from Steve Harvey, right? It's like everybody has a unique fingerprint. And that means we all have a unique talent or skill that it's just associated with us, right? Each person. So with that in mind, we have the ability to communicate differently. We have the ability to talk differently, and leverage that to our advantage to convey a message, right? Now, let's just say, for example, I know what my superpowers are, and that's my unique gifts. Like, for example, I've honed my skills in terms of delivering presentations. I wasn't always like this. I was usually, a stuttering Stanley back in the day, but I tapped into my talent by honing it by, going to Toastmasters and really finding my voice. But I also have a knack for connecting with people. And I leverage that as a means to build an impression with them, to really draw them into what I'm trying to say. So personal branding is super important because at the end of the day, people really want to build that connection with you. Like the way that you and I met, you stood out because how you leverage your own characteristics, which is, you're outgoing. You reached out to me and said, hey, that was an amazing presentation you did, while others won't, right? So your ability to make a connection with me is somewhat like your superpower as well, but you leverage that in a manner of going through different streams within your career, within your life, and that's just what makes you different. So personal branding, and I know you called me a guru, and I'm like, oh man, that's a huge title, so I appreciate that. I'm trying to set myself up for that, but yeah, I'm getting there. I'm looking at the nuances of how everybody operates and how I read people.
And it's cool. What I really like about their personal brand, your identity, and you leverage these tips or like various skills you have in you that not only you have innately, but ones you can learn to then attach to your brand. And there's two elements to that. One is discovering what's already in you that you can 10x just by applying a little bit of time to it. And then there's this notion of discovering your other self. That and Reggie has his own little initiative called Discover Your Other Self, and it for me, it's been like pretty transformational, and it introduced me to a whole side of growth and love I haven't experienced from a random community. And I'd just like to dig into finding your other self, because while people may see things they're good at, there may be things that one, they want to get better at and they're not, or two, that they don't even know are there. So maybe you want to share that vision behind Discover Your Other Self and how that can help people build that brand, build that image in the eyes of themselves and other people.
Yeah, good question. And I'm really passionate about Discover Your Other Self, and it's a show that I host on LinkedIn Live. So the way that I tell this story is, and you kind of nailed it, right? Like within us, there's this, you know, we are. This is a show, right? The outer vision, the outer working of who we are as people is a show. But there's always this like little person inside of you. It's like this voice screaming out and saying, "I want to do X, Y, Z. I want to do more. I want to be, you know, a CEO of my own business, right? Or I want to be a basketball player or a hockey player or whatever the case is." There's this person screaming out, just waiting to come out. But then there's also the core of who we are, where it's like, well, I don't know if you can do that, right? And this is all based on programming that stems from from the minute we were born or came into this world. Our parents programmed us, right? They raised us, and then you kind of branch out from your own family, and then you go into the school system, and then the school system then programs us, right? And then your friend circle programs you. So all these different factors come into play in terms of who you are as an individual. However, that there's that little voice that's saying, I know I could do more. I know I'm meant to do more on this earth, right? And it's funny because I talk to a lot of people and they're like, well, and I'll say, hey, what do you really want to do when you grow up? And I'm talking to adults here.
Hmm.
Actually, you know what? I never thought about that, but I always wanted to do this. And these are like, for example, I can be talking to an accountant and they'd be like, I really want to do this. Yeah, but you're doing an accounting job. So that I want to do this is really their other self, right? Talking, where it's like that subconscious mind comes into play. I know I could do more. I know I might be doing accounting 9 to 5, but I just did that to, fulfill a need, which is for most of us, paying bills and, taking care of our family and so forth. But there's this other creative gene within you that says, I want to do more, but I'm kind of scared to do it. And it's not until we kind of hit rock bottom a lot of times where we really and truly discover our other self. And that's what happened with me. The first time in my career, I was unemployed in 2019, and this is January 2019. And I came from 12 years of being in the telco space, so working for Rogers and Bell. And unfortunately, I became unemployed, didn't know what to do. And I always felt like, man, telco is going to be the space. I was going to grow, climb that corporate ladder. And that's because that's all I knew. I was just like a bubble boy, had tunnel vision. I didn't know anything outside of that space. But it wasn't until I hit rock bottom for me, because everyone hits rock bottom in different ways. But because I'd never been unemployed before, it was a shock to the system. And when I was in that phase, I really discovered who I really wanted to be. And what do I mean by that? Well, now I get a chance to really sit down with myself. I'm outside of this comfort zone, which I call telco. And now I really have to figure out, okay, well, what are my talents? What am I good at? Who do I know? Who's in my network? And the what am I good at goes back to those unique gifts and talents, which I call superpowers, right? But it wasn't until then I uncovered what I'm really good at. And I even developed a framework, which I could talk about later, that I call the time matrix. But, and this is a long winded response to your question, but I just really wanted you to understand where that other self comes from. It comes from the fact that you could actually do the work in terms of looking within a lot, which a lot of us were kind of like the Walking Dead and, being like zombies, going through life, just going through the motions, right? But when you step outside of that for a quick second, which we don't do a lot because society says we have to act a specific way. But again, that little voice is saying, I want to do a little bit more. I want to do this. I want to do that. But no, I can't do it. It holds you back. But once you tap into your core system of deep down who you really want to be, that's where the other self comes into play. And that's where I'm trying to build a platform for people such as that LinkedIn Live series to know that there is another side of you. You know it, I know it, but a lot of times fear is holding you back.
Yeah, fear is such a pain in everyone's rear because it really is deceptive. Because sometimes fear is very valid, and when we get so used to fear actually protecting us, don't go outside, you won't get hit by a car. You're exactly right, fear. You know what I mean? It's not wrong, but it also hinders you from taking risks that won't be as detrimental as it appears. So now let's say someone's like, do you know what? I'm still fearful of putting myself out there, finding my gifts, and building this image I can share publicly in my waking life, just walking and meeting people, but also online. But let's say people want to explore that superpower portion. Before we get into these other things, how can someone tap into their superpower? Now, it may be simple, but let's say someone really is having trouble being like, I don't have a superpower, Reggie. Or they're like, I have a superpower, but I don't like it. How would you best guide someone to find a superpower that they want to put into their brand and put into themselves and their fingerprint?
Yeah, that's another great question. So, how do you find your superpower? I developed a framework that I call the time matrix, and to help you really uncover what that is, it's identifying what you don't want in life or your career, whatever you want to call it, and then what you want in your career or your life. And then bottom left hand corner is, what do I like? What are my superpowers? What are my gifts, my talents? And then this time next year, because I will leverage my superpowers to get what I want through visualization. But how do you identify what your superpower is? Really and truly, it's what are you good at, right? Like, for example, take a barber, right? Maybe that barber that, the precursor to that person becoming a barber, they didn't know that they really had this talent. They didn't have this gift. They may have been like, good with, let's just say, arts as an example, but they may have just been, playing around with just cutting hair, but they knew they had an eye for it, right? They knew they had an eye. They knew how to get that fresh fade looking proper, or that lineup looking nice, right? And they kept working on it. But they mixed in the fact that they also know how to communicate well, because barbers, if you think about it, they're good communicators. They're good listeners. They're like the therapists, right?
They are for your hair.
If if a barber wasn't a barber, they'd probably be a good therapist,
Oh,
right? Because
heck
everyone
yes.
tells them their issues and their stories,
Yes.
right? But when it comes to identifying your superpowers, you have to really sit down with yourself, and that's why I did this time matrix, is because you need to uncover, like, what can I really do that I know I could do very well, right? So, for example, like Eric, you're good at connecting with people. You're good at talking with people, right? The way I see you, your superpower is through the way you can communicate thought, the way that you could be empathetic to another human being. That's a superpower. Some people may be like, okay, well, is that really a superpower? That's just who I am. But you're right. It's about who you are. That's what a superpower is. It's about what you could do the best. It's the thing that you could do the best at, that you know that you could do the best at. Not that somebody else would tell you, but you know in your heart of hearts that I am the best at doing XYZ. Right. And shoot, if you shine shoes, you know how to shine shoes. There's nothing wrong with that. But you might be the best person at it, right?
Mhm.
And you might get that like really good shine, that really good sparkle, but that might be your gift. The idea though is to leverage that gift to build the lifestyle that you want. So if you're shining shoes and you're the best at it, how could you monetize that?
Reggie,
Right?
I guess got some idea. We got to roll with this. Okay, so let's say somebody out there, right? Hypothetically, they're feeling themselves and they realize, wow, I actually do shine shoes, Reggie. I shine the meanest shoe anybody has ever seen, right? Hypothetically, in this example,
Mhm.
let's say that is a real superpower. They can make that their brand. They can add humor in their advertising. It's like, you think it doesn't matter, but I shine the best shoe. And then like a Mr. Clean Wink or something. That could be great. So let's say somebody has the skill of like shining shoes.
Mhm.
There's an element to this now. Now they're passionate. They see an angle. They have a superpower, and they know what they want in 2021 based on your quadrant. They have to tell a story at some point. Storytelling is everything. If I tell you, talk to your parents, you talk to yourself in the form of a story. If you were a yoga teacher like Rajiv when he was on the show, he even thought of it as telling a story, which is very true. So how can maybe people leverage something like storytelling. I know you're big on it, and I'd love to hear, like, in the example of someone who shines shoes and he's the best at it, how would that guy start thinking about his life and thinking how he can tell his story in a way that he can monetize and also just help people and then make that like a business where he can get income?
I love this. Now you making me want to shine shoes, man. Like, okay, and I like I figured out like what this, my shoe shining business would look like, right? I know what my social media already looks like right now, and I could tell the story. So the power of storytelling, it's
Let's
key
go.
essential to your personal brand. Remember where I talked about if you've uncovered your superpower, right? You need to now amplify that so people are aware of it and understand it. If you think about Nike, Nike is a brand, right? But the brand Nike is only made up of the people that work for that organization. That's what people don't understand. So, as an individual, there's Eric Inc., there's Reggie Waterman Inc. If I am going to be shining shoes, okay, here's what I would do. I have the ability to draw stories just from that experience alone and be able to create content. If you think about the people that I, as a shoe shiner, am going to be interacting with, let's call him Jim. Jim comes at least once a week to shine his shoes. Jim has a story.
Mm.
I could be able to capture content of my interaction with Jim, right? And who knows, based on the way that I shine his shoes so good or so well, I may make his day, right? Because now he's feeling good. My shoes are super clean, right? And because I've made that impact to Jim and his not only his shoes, but maybe his life. Maybe there's the dopamine levels probably just started to increase because of that experience. I could capture that moment, right? I could capture that exchange because there's that energy exchange whenever we do good and impact another human being. So I'm capturing those moments to then tell that story. Or I'm talking about the process of what it means to shine shoes. Maybe I'm talking about the equipment that I'm using. Maybe I'm talking about my life story and how I got to be a shoe shiner, right? Maybe I'm talking about the struggles, right? Maybe I'm talking about the hard days that I have. Maybe I'm not getting a constant flow of customers. And then, what am I doing to stay motivated? What makes me happy? Maybe the interactions with Jim or my other customers make me happy, but maybe I'm documenting all those instances and creating a story based on those interactions with my customers. So I would say that anything could be a story. It's all about the packaging.
Mm.
And a lot of us hoard our stories, which is the problem. We feel like, especially when it comes to creating content, we ha. Oh, is this going to get engagement? Is that not going to get it? Who's going to listen to that? But there's always that one person that's going to always tap into your story. And we're doing others a disservice when we hold back.
Bro, brain explosion. Like that was so impactful. For sure. I mean, and it's what's cool. It was like people like process. And that's why I always try and from each episode create like a level of process that people can apply to their life, even if it's just like a question they can ask themselves at a particular time of day. People like structure. But I'm always a really big fan of when people have ideas that are that's the implementation of it. It's like have this idea and just roll with it, right? So your
Roll with it.
story can be your story. You don't have to overthink it. Now, of course, if you're doing a presentation and you have a big business meeting, there's some techniques to deliver value. But in a world where people crave humanity, crave authenticity, what Reggie was just almost trying to share is like be unapologetically you, the good, the bad times. I'm not saying you cuss like you're Gary Vee, but you show a side of yourself that people could chew on and not overthink it. Did we understand that part? And just package it. Package it in a neat medium, whether it be on LinkedIn, Instagram. Maybe it's none of that. I don't know what the best medium is. Maybe it's direct email to your closest friends just to start off. But is that like the essence of what you were sharing? Is just going authentic and then packaging that in the best form?
That's exactly what it is. Being authentic, being just sticking true to you and your personal brand, understanding that people want to know what the process looks like. So, and again, if we're going to use that shoe shining example, well, tell me about that process. Like, I don't know. but maybe I could get informed by it. Maybe I'll be able to educate somebody based on my story that I bring to light, right?
Mm.
Remember that interaction, people like that emotional aspect of a story because it really, pulls on the heartstrings. And that's what people are looking for, especially in a time like now, the pandemic. I will tell you that people are craving stories. Yes, people are going to watch Netflix all day because they're accustomed to doing that, but they really want the real human interaction. They want to be exposed to it. Like if you could vlog all day about the shoe shining experience and maybe the captures the highs, the lows, you going home and depending on what home looks like for you. But let's just say you're always wearing a smile on your face, you're always practicing gratitude, and people want to know, well, what makes this shoe shiner guy or person so happy, right? And people will cling to that. So the stories and how we package it is key essential because everything has to be delivered. Just like we talked about Nike,
Hmm.
they package their product really well. If you look at their marketing, emotional ties, right?
Oh yeah.
Think about the packaging of the product, the box, right?
Hmm.
Really great packaging. So all that ties back to your personal brand.
So if somebody were to work your quadrant, they would define what they don't want, what they do want. They would find their talents and skills, and then have a vision for the future, right? Then they
Yep.
would figure out their story so they can pen down their highs, their lows, the things that make up their day as they go towards those new goals. But you mentioned a crucial point. Now, people did those two steps. There's the packaging, baby, right? People are going to have to package this. Are they going to use a Nike shoebox? Are they going to put it in a Honda and drive it off a cliff? I don't know how people are going to, but my thing is this: how can people package this? You use LinkedIn. Some people like YouTube. Maybe flyer form is the best based on their medium. But what would you suggest as a method for people to package their content? Would it be video, text? Like, what are you thinking, Reggie?
Listen, I would say all of the above.
Mm.
All of the above. However, when you're packaging that material, that content, simplify to amplify. What I mean that is don't overcomplicate the message, right? Do a, 1 to 2 minute video. Keep it simple because a lot of people just have ADD these days, right? Sometimes, and I've learned the hard way. Sometimes if I've posted content over 2 minutes, I don't get as much engagement as I would for something that is between 1 to 2 minutes, right? Because
Mm.
people you just have to maintain their engagement and their attention, and that's a hard thing to do. But you try to the key is to really try to get people's attention, and you could do that across multiple mediums. But do it in a way that represents you. And Eric, you said something that is critical. Your story is unique to you. Nobody else has your story, which is the beautiful thing about this whole process, right? So in your mind, you may think that people are judging you, but you have to tune that out because who are they to say your story doesn't matter? Because it does matter to somebody.
It certainly does. And that story is like, I just had a coming to life moment, and you talked about this at some of the Ryerson stuff there, but it's like it's essentially like your identity, and whether you think of it or not, you have many different identities. So the idea is to figure out like a brand that encapsulates you so well you can be that at all times of the day. If you think about it, you have a brand with your friends. If you're an athlete, and your friends may think of you as an athlete, but you may go on a date with a male or woman, and they may have no idea of that about you. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Mhm.
just like, how can you encapsulate something that is your identity wherever you go, your sense of purpose, your why? Now, we had an episode on that too, but I actually believe with Reggie's quadrant and his ability to have you question your story and your processes and then also package it, I think it's a great way to start finding your purpose and working towards solidifying that. Now, do you think perhaps there's any other tidbits or pieces of knowledge we can share with the folks out there that are hesitant, that are fearful, that are even maybe depressed or sad or doubtful? Is there anything that you could say to inspire them to jump in, but try and apply some of the things you shared with us today? and just go for it and be more public.
Yeah, you are. I'll just let everyone know you're not alone. The ones that, have been feeling depressed or anxious during this time, there's a lot of people, we're all in this together in terms of lockdown and so forth. But the main thing is to stay level headed. Understand that this is just temporary. We're going to come out of this. And I would always say there's a difference between being a creator versus a consumer, right? You could always consume content. And I've always said this, which could educate you and get you informed on a particular subject matter. But why not be the creator where you are the one delivering the content for somebody else to consume? And then you can look back on this time, because there's always going to be the question, what were you doing during the pandemic? This is a historic moment in time for all of us. And for me personally, I've wanted to say, hey, well, during this time, while we were all on lockdown, I was doing XYZ, as opposed to just binge watching Netflix all day and then everything becomes a blur.
Mhm.
But if I could create impact, because we all have it within us, but it's just that fear. It's about overcoming the fear. And the only way to do that is to listen to programs just like Eric is putting on Empowered Life Hacks. Like, what you're doing is you're providing the tools that people need to really tap into their mindset, because that's where it all starts. Anxiety is here.
Mhm.
Depression starts here.
Mhm.
Mental health starts here.
Mhm.
So what are we doing about this? What are we feeding this in terms of content that we're consuming, in terms of the people around us? Because a lot of people around us are anxious too. But we also have a choice. We don't have to surround ourselves with people that maybe might be negative or might be anxious. Consume the right things, take in the right positive messages, and you will see a transformation right before your eyes. And the thing is, and there's a reason why I put in that quadrant, Eric, this time next year, if you tap into and build a growth mindset, your friends will not recognize you, because they are so, a lot of people don't evolve. They usually just go through the motions in life.
Mhm.
But when you veer off into a different direction, take a detour that is not customary than what the norm or the average person does, your friends will look at you like, why is he doing that? That's different. Look at you weird.
Mhm.
But if you're veering off, you're going into your purpose. Once you uncover that, I'm telling you, you'll start to feel more fulfilled, a lot more energized, and you won't feel like you're a lost soul.
Man, amen to that. And I love what he said, that your friends may feel some type of way, but do you know what, something I realized? I was worried about putting myself up there and engaging my friends. Funny enough, I had a childhood friend come on as our first episode, and how I minimized that fear of what people will think of me, especially people I grew up with, was like, this isn't about where they are now, where you are now, where you're going. This is about where they could be. And I've had people now reach out to me and just be inspired, like, whoa, like you really are doing this. Like I did not expect that. And now we're connecting on projects that they wanted to work on or aren't. So it's not always about us. Like once you figure out, sometimes I don't always feel like doing this, really, truthfully. But
Mm-hmm.
when I really tap into how I've impacted people on even just one or two people, that carries me through and says, okay, I should tread this path. It's worth it for sure. And yeah, Reggie, you nailed it right on the head there. And just want to emphasize for sure, find your favorite social media platform. Find the one that resonates with you, that makes you happy. We can tell you all of them, but you can do the research or see the one you're happy with today. Look at your favorite influencers and then just go from there. Start telling your story and use the quadrant.
And follow Eric, because this guy is like a mini Gary V. This, like, he's got the DNA, he's got the energy, and he's got the drive, man. So I'm proud of you, man. I like what you're doing.
I appreciate you, Reggie. I
You're
mean, I can give your
inspiring.
plugs because I'm obviously following Reggie. But Reggie, do you wanna shout out the Discover Your Other Self and where people can catch you at?
Yeah. So we're season 3, Discover Your Other Self. Every Thursday, we're on a virtual world tour. We have an episode. Well, yeah, tomorrow it's Thursday. Well, whenever this could be released, whatever. But Thursdays, the time will vary because we are on a world tour. But tomorrow's at 7 p.m. But depending on where this person is at in around the globe, the time may change. But check us out and yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn.
I'll be there. You know I'm there. I'll be 6:50 sharp, Reggie. Yes, sir. I appreciate you. Thanks so much for coming and helping people out today and trying to help me out here too.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Cheers, man. Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks so much for checking this episode out, guys. We had so much to take away. You know, we learned a lot over our series so far of Empowered Life Hacks of Season 1, and we finally actually found a way to tie in our purpose, our talents, our skills, our superpowers in an actual practical way to build a career, a fingerprint, a brand for ourselves that allows us to attract people who want to invest in our skills, attract businesses and network with people that actually want to see us thrive in what we're passionate about. And developing that personal brand helps us do that, right? It creates an image and a way to advertise what we have to offer to the world and our unique skills, and also share our vision for the future. But a cool thing with that is, along the way, we can have mentors, and these mentors can come and help amplify us, like Reggie, or like me, or like anyone, right? But the beautiful thing is sometimes mentors are found through you being so out there and exposed. So, you know, we have 2 weeks, we can crack down and try and develop a bit of our own personal brand, but we're going to have Nick Benson come talk all about getting a mentor, finding a mentor, and the benefits of that, and how it helped him build resilience on his journey. I can't wait to touch on that with you. It's going to be a very powerful episode, and I can't wait to see y'all soon. Appreciate you. Have a good one. Ciao.